And Mr. President, we'll proceed with the next speaker, please. Troy LaRaviere, the CPAA president.
Good morning, beautiful people. District management has once again concocted a skeletal plan to reopen schools. They contrived this plan without the presence or participation of the teachers, support staff, engineers, and principals who have to implement that plan. It's as if you're purposefully trying to create a plan that has the worst likelihood of succeeding by trying to create it without the people who are critical to its success. Can you imagine a hospital trying to figure out how to operate during COVID without the input of doctors and nurses? Even the NBA had enough sense to bring the players union in to create a plan that led to the successful resumption of their season. No matter what the field, the people on the ground will bring insights into the planning table that will keep everyone safer. CPS management is ignoring this fundamental planning principle at the expense of the staff and students who will suffer because of your arrogance. Your planning process and poor oversight of the district is so inadequate that you can't even hold a proper citywide LSC election during this pandemic. While many many schools will be able to pull off a successful election, principals have informed me that some schools don't even have election coordinators, election judges, or election security because of COVID concerns. But district management isn't even collecting the data that would give them an overall sense of the schools where it is unfeasible to hold and execute an election with enough integrity that the results could be trusted. Instead, they're telling principals to just, quote unquote, make it work, without the slightest bit of support that will enable them to do so. Do you have any idea how much frustration, anxiety, and stress you're creating? Your stress-inducing management style is applicable to nearly every area of operations, not just LSC elections. To add insult to injury, management had the nerve to tell principals and assistant principals during a webinar yesterday to, quote unquote, take care of yourselves. Then you said that you'll be sending principals some so-called well-being resources. Let's make this clear. Based on what administrators tell us, the biggest threat to the well-being of principals and assistant principals is you. More specifically, the biggest threat to their well-being is the uninformed, cavalier, top-down, tone-deaf, unilateral, disconnected manner in which CPS management runs this district, or more accurately, fails to run this district, fails to get principals the support and resources they need, and then leaves them to try and make it work in the wake of your failure. Listen to what the CEO said during yesterday's meeting with principals, and I'm quoting her here. We want to communicate reopening plans to principals as early as possible, but there are challenges embedded in sharing information with principals because we want that information to remain confidential until it's appropriate to share. Unfortunately, it's shared before we can get our message out, and that kind of puts us at a disadvantage. Can you hear yourself? What in the world needs to be confidential about the planning to reopen schools? You're talking about reopening schools as if it's a media messaging event where you have to get a one-up on public opinion, instead of looking at it as an opportunity to bring the necessary parties together to plan it correctly and get it right. And that is why you fail. We want to get our students in classrooms with the services they need, but we want to get it right. But every reopening plan you've had since March has failed. You failed our students, our communities, our staff, and you failed us. And in conclusion, you will continue to increase the likelihood of failure so long as you fail to recognize that the collective minds of medical professionals, along with staff, teachers, engineers, and principals, are far more brilliant than the minds you've had at the planning table so far. So you need to invite them into the planning process to harness that brilliance for the benefit of us all. That concludes my statement. Does any member of the board have any questions or concerns in regard to the concerns expressed by the principals and assistant principals who lead your schools?
Thank you for your comments.